The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me on this Monday evening. We are 24 days away from the NFL Draft, and we have got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of news going on, and a huge trade that basically could implement a lot of changes, especially for the upcoming teams that have pulled off that trade. But first, we are going to be jam-packed with guests, and let's go ahead and introduce them as quickly as we can and get them in on all this great conversation. Joining me from the Titan Wire, one of the best contributors on the basically out there putting out some of the best news stories. Joining us will be Shaun Calderon. Shaun, welcome to the Power Hour. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate that warm greeting. I appreciate it.
And also, we've got another guest joining us from the Titan Time podcast. It's a good friend of ours. Always glad to have him on the show. It's our good buddy, Tyler. Tyler, welcome to the Power Hour.
Thanks for having me on again, man. It's always a blast getting on here and talking Titans with you.
We have definitely got a great panel tonight, and we've got a lot of discussion to go forward and talk about some things. But first, I think we'll jump into a quick topic that just came up as some breaking news. And it appears that Rashaan Evans has found a new home. He will be playing with the Atlanta Falcons. We'll have to get more details as they come out through the newswire. But Shaun, we'll start with you. How do you feel about this news breaking? Do you think it's a good fit for the Falcons going forward?
I think it's a good fit for both of them because I feel it's a good fit for both of them because they, when Rashaan had his best season, I think it was back in 2019, was under Dean Pease. So I think that's good for him just to get another chance to get his feet wet back because he hit a little bit of a wall his last couple of years, so his stock fell down, and which is the reason why he's still available this late in free agency. So I think it's a good spot for him, and we'll see how it works for the Falcons. I think it's a good spot for him because, like I said, this Dean Pease is the one person who did get something out of him. Like, he did have a legendary goal line stand. He forget, you trashed him, but he did have a goal that. So maybe he can get that back out of him consistently.
And Tyler, question for you. Do you think that Rashaan Evans will make a difference with the Atlanta Falcons going forward?
Well, like Shaun said, I mean, you look back at his last couple of years with the Titans after Dean Pease was gone, he kind of fell off. So now you're putting him back under Dean Pease. So if Dean Pease is able to get the best out of him, then yeah, he can definitely go in and make an impact for him, I feel like.
We'll see how he does going forward with Atlanta, as it seems they're turning into the Titans of the NFC South. We wish him luck. Thank you for your service, but as always...
They want to trade conferences? We're all on board, too. They want to trade conferences? And the NFC, because right now it's a slaughterhouse on that side. On our side, I mean.
They can have it. I mean, at this point, I'm just happy with what we got and what we have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, let's jump into our top news, hitting it on a little screen, all three of us, and let's go ahead and get it going. Welcome to the Power Hour tonight. I'm your host, Michael Bishop. Let's hit it. Well, as it appears, Colin Kaepernick is out once again trying to show his skill set out. Hopefully that there'll be a team that would be interested in possibly signing him, maybe for a starter, but maybe even possibly for a backup role. So, Shaun, I'll start with you. A 35-year-old quarterback that's been out of the league for 5 years, is there a market for Colin Kaepernick right now?
I think his play would probably warrant a backup job, honestly. I think he's good enough to at least be – I think he's good enough to be one of the 64 best quarterbacks in the NFL. But I don't think his talent is worth the media circus that's going to come for a backup quarterback. If he was a superstar quarterback still, was playing at a high level with the last time we saw him, maybe he would get another chance for that. But I don't know, man. It's just going to be so hard for the media circus. It's going to come for a backup quarterback. I just don't see it honestly happening at this point. If it didn't happen by now, I mean, I really am rooting for the guy. I'm not rooting against him. I really would love to see him get back in the league. I would love for to be honest, I would love for the Titans to give him that chance to be the backup, but I just don't see it happening realistically at this point. It's just been so long, and I don't know. The media circus would be nuts. And like I said, for someone who's ideally wouldn't even be your starting quarterback.
Tyler, I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, so kind of like Shaun said, all the media attention that would come with him being like a backup, that kind of, it's just going to draw all that attention to that team, to the backup spot, and it's I feel like it would get pushed to, if your starting quarterback slips up just once, like, okay, y'all need to roll him out there, get him out there. The biggest thing for me is, like you said, he's been out of the league for 5 years now. So, do you want to take that chance on someone who's been out of the league for 5 years? They haven't been back in that situation where they're playing at that game speed. I mean, we've seen before with other players who are out just maybe a couple of months, not getting that actual in-game play, how long it takes them to kind of get back into that stride. So you take 5 years from that, there's no telling how long it would take him to actually get back to actual playing speed in the NFL. So I just don't know that any team's going to give him that shot.
And it seems like he struggled to diagnose defenses when he was in the game consistently at the time. So being away from 5 years from now, I could just imagine the curve that it would take for him to just come in and be all right, so now I have to just relearn all right, this is how this defense is running, this is how this team is running their defense now, this is how this scheme is it would just be a ton. And I just don't think it's realistically possible at this point. But I mean, if he could do it, I'd be really happy for the guy, but I realistically don't see it happening, honestly.
And you both make great points. I mean, I'm like everyone else. I'm rooting for him if he has the opportunity to get the job. But the one concerning stat that really stands out to me is the fact that his career quarterback percentage is at 58.9. And throughout the league last year, you had quarterbacks posting right above 69. So the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, were posting well over 65% of their completions. Then you get to the lower tier of it, and at least the last 4, from 30 to 33, posted between a 60 and a 55.6. Zach Wilson coming in last. And Tyler, I'll start with you. A quarterback that has a 58.9% completion rating his entire career, you're asking a lot for a guy that's been out of the league to adapt to this. Do you think that if there's a team out there that's run heavy or tries to bootleg a lot, do you think that would be the best kind of system for him?
I would say so, because, if you get that play action going, like if you're one of the top running teams in the league and defenses have to respect your run game and you're able to run that play action, roll him out of the pocket. I mean, we know about his athleticism. He can get out of the pocket, or back when he was in the league, could get out of the pocket, make plays with his legs, extend plays. So I feel like that would definitely, teams with that system for the offense would definitely be a better fit for him.
And Sean, same question.
I wrote down 4 things just so I don't forget. I think if he were to get a chance, I think he needs a great defense, an elite running back or running backs next to him, and then a system that's going to let him to use his legs, like some type of RPOs, and just a place that's going to let him manage the game. They're not going to expect him to do nothing crazy, just manage the game. But as long as he gets those 4, those are probably the best situation for him. But Seattle's been the only. Well, Pete Carroll, I should say, has been the only coach that's been out there publicly saying, oh, he deserves a chance and all this whatnot. So, you really feel that way, give him a chance. That's how I feel. Because he's the one that keeps campaigning the door, let's let him in, he deserves a chance. Well, put your money where out. You don't have a quarterback right now. You're supposed to have Drew Lock. You're scheduled to have Drew Lock right now as a break. So, can't get much worse.
And that's a great point. But I think the final question on the Kaepernick situation, if not the NFL, there's always the XFL and potentially the USFL, which are more than likely going to be lower tier leagues, but could possibly help highlight his work that he's been doing the past 5 years. Could it actually help his cause if he is willing to possibly play a year in the USFL to actually get a chance to show his talent, if it was available to him?
That's a good point. I didn't think of that, but it would really. I think if he's really serious about playing football, getting back in the NFL, then he should do it. Because one, he'll get to showcase his talent, and 2, it'll show that he's serious about not having to be just the biggest platform. He needs he's going to come in demanding the starting job. It's showing that all right, he's willing to really work from the ground up to get back to the league. But I don't know, it's just like I said, the media circus in that level is going to be like, do we really want to bring Colin Kaepernick to like the USFL with all that media frenzy? But like, I don't know.
But then again, the USFL could really use that media circus.
That's true, I guess. That's true.
But all in all, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Colin Kaepernick saying he will possibly take a backup role if available, but like Shaun said, we'll see if he puts his money where his mouth is. Moving on to our next story, and it's unfortunate that the New York Jets continue to find a way to get under the skin of Tennessee Titan fans. As it's been going on for most of the week, apparently reports have been saying that there's interest that the Jets would like to go after some of the high-profile receivers coming out in free agency next year. One of them being A.J. Brown. So, Tyler, I'll give you this to start out. What is going on? Why are the Jets thinking that they have a chance at this right now?
They are just grasping at any straw that they can, I feel like, because they know that they, I mean, like most teams, need better weapons at wide receiver, need guys that can go out and make plays for them, and they're looking at how, take the Jaguars, for example, who are going out and just paying everybody all this money, and especially receivers. So they're like, okay, that's just going to be driving these numbers up and up. You have AJ, you have DK, you have Deebo Samuel, all these guys that are going to get their money. I mean, somewhere. Hopefully AJ's is with the Titans. But they're seeing that, and they're trying to start something, get that rumbling going, because I think they feel like, okay, if we get that rumbling going enough, then maybe there'll start being some truth to it. And I think that's all it is they're just grasping at any straw that they can. And when they look at the Titans, I think the latest report was like looking at the Titans cap situation and everything, AJ would be the most likely target. And I'm like, hey, you've got the salary cap over the next couple of years is more than likely going to skyrocket. I mean, we saw it take a step back because of everything that happened in 2020. So now it's starting to climb back up. I don't think there's going to be any trouble for the Titans to sign AJ, sign Jeffrey Simmons. But as far as Jets fans and they're trying to wheel AJ Brown to the Jets, I just don't – there's nothing going to come of it, I don't believe.
And Shaun, I guess one thing that you have to take in consideration that could this be a power play from possibly A.J. Brown's agent, possibly leaking this as just an interest story to possibly make negotiations speed up to the table for the Titans?
I mean, I guess it could, but the way I see it, I think I'm leaning more towards like what Tyler's saying. I think the Jets are like really more out of desperation. They're trying to plant the seed. Like maybe if we start rumbling, hey, maybe we should, they won't be able to afford them. Maybe we could give them these picks. Maybe they'll plant the seed, and maybe the Titans will start considering like, hey, like maybe we should move on. Maybe we should get these picks while we can, and like so forth. But in reality, there's been absolutely no indication that he's going to move on. And in reality, I feel like the basis of this is because Elijah Moore is friends with A.J. Brown. Like, if they weren't friends, if they didn't go to college together, I don't think A.J. Brown's name would even be being brought up right now. But it's the fact that they went to college together and they were best friends, and A.J. Brown was crying with him on draft night and all this, that they're like, hey, let's reunite them together now that A.J.'s contract is up, and now we're seeing these like ridiculous numbers for wide receivers. So, like, I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous especially because they say that we can't afford him. Like, one, I'm pretty sure Ryan Tannehill's not going to be the quarterback in a couple of years, and if he does, that's perfect. Like, that means he probably turned it around and he's killing it. But otherwise, he's probably not going to be the quarterback for much longer after this year. And if, say, he does, you could get other ways out. You could move on from Bud Dupree, Taylor Lewan. Even as much as hard as to say, Derrick Henry will probably be, once he gets hits 30, you're going to be able to get that off the books. So, like, there's other avenues to pay A.J. Brown besides just being drastically like, all right, let's get rid of him. Like, the best wide receiver we've ever had, maybe outside of Derek Mason. Like, it's just, I don't know. In my opinion, it's just absurd, this whole thing. Like, and if there's any truth to it, I would lose my damn mind if they trade him. I'm just saying because this has been the player that this franchise and this fan base has been waiting for so damn long. Like we have been waiting for a receiver like him for so long. Like it's not exaggeration. And just if they were to just let that go for the 10th pick at that, like I would lose my damn mind. Like I'm not one of those gonna be like I would trade. I would lose my mind. Like I would be so damn mad. And it's been like, in my opinion, the starting point for me, for just to start the conversation, is the 4th and 10th pick, and that's just enough to get me to tell you no. To answer the phone and tell you no. So
it would pique Sean's interest, but it's not getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
So, Tyler, I'll give you this question. What is A.J. Brown worth right now with the current receiver market?
Ooh. Huh. That, yeah.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, that is a loaded question because I know a lot of people are looking back at last year he missed some games and everything, but you go back to the year before that when, yes, he would go off for a play or two and then he would come back out there on 2 bad knees and he was just willing himself to get out there and make plays. And like Shaun said, this is the receiver that Titans fans and this organization have been looking for so long. I mean, he goes out there, you get the ball in his hands, and 9 times out of 10, something good happens. So, as far as what he's worth, I know the number's been thrown out there of $25 million per year. My opinion, I think he would be worth it. Just my opinion on that.
Absolutely. In my opinion, A.J. Brown hasn't even been used correctly since he's been in the Titans. Like his career high in targets is 106. For perspective, Justin Jefferson last season had 167 targets. Like A.J. Brown has a 1,000-yard season on 86 targets. I don't think that people realize how insane that is. Like he has a 1,000-yard season on 86 targets. If you were to give him the 167 that Justin Jefferson just had last year, was it last year or 2 years ago? Whatever it was. A.J. Brown would go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, he hasn't even been unlocked yet fully. Like you could call it for scheme, you could call it because of the quarterback play, whatever your reason. That's a different conversation. But he hasn't been unlocked yet, and I will be damned if we're not the team that's going to fully unlock that.
And the point I'll make to finish on this, A.J. Brown could have every right to sit out the season and basically demand more money, but he hasn't. And I'll give him the credit for that because he's a team guy. He wants to be in Tennessee. He wants to finish his career in Tennessee. So I have all the faith that John Robinson will get a deal done. He always gets these things locked around, especially when training camp rolls around. So right about that time will be where people need to start paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to our next news, Frank Gore, probably one of the most underrated running backs in the NFL, will be retiring with the San Francisco 49ers, signing a one-day deal to retire with them. And, guys, I have no doubt that Frank Gore deserves to be in Canton, Ohio, but I'm sure there are people that will argue against it. So, Shaun, I'll start with you. What's your take on Frank Gore's career?
I mean, he was never the flashiest. He was never, in my opinion, he was probably, never the best, the best running back. But he was so consistent for so long that in my opinion, he just built himself. He built himself a Canton resume as well. At a position where you're supposed to drop off at the 30th and just basically disappear and just go off into retirement, basically. Like he just kept going year after year, kept finding a job after job after job after job, and he kept producing. It's not like he was just putting up 200-yard seasons. Like he was actually producing at a relatively high level. So at this point, for longevity and consistency, I think you have to give it to him. I think he's third all time, I believe.
Yes, he's 16,000 yards.
Yeah, it's just
Golly.
There's no argument in my opinion. He built it for himself. You could argue he never had that peak, whatever, but even I would argue because I think he did have that peak. I think he was really good. I don't think he was the best, but I thought he was damn good when he was in the peak 49er days. And I just think he ultimately really deserves it by the time now that he is hanging him up.
And Tyler, people forget, especially in his college career, where he had 2 major injuries and basically slipped down in the draft. the fact that he tore 2 ACLs and 2 separate knees, I feel that just especially elevates his status. So what would be your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I like y'all, I have no doubt that he should end up in Canton. Like just the longevity of his career, like Shaun mentioned. How often do you see a running back go in this league as long as he did and actually still be able to produce? Like, yeah, it's not like towards the end of his career he was up there top 5 rushing or anything like that, but the guy was still out there producing, well over 30 years old. Like, it's crazy. If I don't know how anyone could have the argument that he doesn't belong there, because it seemed like he was. I'm trying to remember if I saw the stat right. Is it 16 years for him? Is that right?
I believe he's 16 years in the league.
And if I remember what I saw right, it's like he only missed 15 games in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, how long his career was at the running back position, like you said, he tore his ACLs in college, like, and he still only missed 15 games in 16 years. Like, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's no doubt to me, if your name is right beneath Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton, you definitely did something right in your career. So it'll be about a 5-year wait, but I don't have any doubt that Frank Gore will eventually be donning a gold jacket in Canton, Ohio, probably very soon. Moving on to our next story, and of course, this being a huge story breaking earlier today, we had a trade, and it appears New Orleans got a little frisky and decided to start moving some things around. So with this trade with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eagles ended up getting the 18th, 101st, the 237th, and a 2023 first and a 2024 second-round pick, while the Saints seemed to lock up everything this year in the draft, getting the 16th and the 19th pick, along with the 194th. So, Shaun, what was the deal with this trade? Is New Orleans eyeing a quarterback? Because it seems like they have the pieces, except for quarterback. So could this be a power move right now?
I think the Saints are. It seems like they're going after quarterback this year. And I think the Eagles are. Well, they're moving picks back for next year because they're expecting that those 2 massive prizes at the quarterback position next year are going to be available. So the Eagles seem like they're trying to load up, give themselves the best chance to try to put together a package. But I think this is a good move for the Saints because they do need to get a quarterback in it. I'm a big proponent. Like, if you believe a guy's your guy, go get him. Like, even the same with the Titans this year. Like, I'm not one of those that's like saying we need to go get a drafted quarterback this year or go get one of these guys just to get a guy. But I feel if you really believe a guy's like that could be your franchise guy, then just go get him. And if that's what the Saints are loading up to do, then props to them.
And Tyler, I'll ask the same question.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that this move went ahead and was made because, normally you get to draft day and you see kind of how the chips are falling, and then a team may decide, okay, our guy may not be there if we wait until where our pick is now. We need to move up and get him. But it looks like the Saints have decided, okay, we're going to go ahead, move up. We need to go. We know this guy will probably still be there for us. I think that they're loading up looking for a quarterback. And then like Shaun said, I think the Eagles, this maybe puts more pressure on Jalen Hurts because they're loading up on these picks for next year where, as Shaun mentioned, you have those 2 prize guys that are supposed to be coming out, and now you're building up to where you could have a pretty good trade package to go get them if you realize after this year that Hurts is not going to be your guy.
The Saints also could be moving up in front of the Chargers too, so they could get one of those tackles because the Chargers those are 2 tackle needy teams. So I think the Saints could have been able to move up in front of them just to get one of those tackles also. That could be like super intriguing for them because they lost Teron Armstead.
And that'd be a very good point. I could possibly see them trying to move up to get Neil Evans from Alabama.
Mm-hmm. They need someone opposite of the Chargers. Need someone opposite of Slater, and then the Saints just need someone to replace Armstead.
So two teams making some big moves. Where they're going to end up with and who they'll end up with, we'll have to wait and see as the draft unfolds in 24 days. And in our final bit of news, Malik Willis has been the quarterback darling as the 2022 draft has unfolded. And the biggest question is, he could possibly end up at 2, he could possibly end up falling. But who is the best fitting team right now that Malik Willis would work the best with?
Is that for me?
Shaun, I'll let you take that one first.
Honestly, I'm not campaigning for the pick, but honestly, I think it would be the Titans because I think Malik Willis has everything that you need or you want in a quarterback. But I just think he needs at least a year to develop, and the Titans are the one team on this list right here that really gives you that. I mean, maybe Daniel Jones, Mariota, I guess maybe, but I mean, Tannehill for sure. If they draft a quarterback this year, is going to be the guy regardless. So I think honestly, from those teams, I think he would probably benefit from the Titans, but I just don't know if the Titans are gonna. If he's gonna fall to the Titans, then I don't know if the Titans are gonna do what it takes to go up all the way to where he's gonna be. I think he's probably out. I don't think he's gonna go as high as 2, like some people are saying, but I don't think he's gonna get out of the top 10 by the way it's looking. And I don't think he's getting past Pittsburgh if he does.
And Tyler, the teams really that I listed were basically the teams that he has already talked to. 2 of them, Atlanta and Carolina, he'll be talking to sometime this week. But really, out of all of them, especially with the quarterback need that seems the heaviest, would have to be either the Steelers or Atlanta at this point. So if he doesn't fall, do you see either one of these 2 teams possibly trying to move up to get him?
That's a good question because, going back to the question you had Shaun answer, I was thinking the Steelers would be kind of the best fit for him, possibly. So, they have Trubisky right now. I could see the Steelers possibly moving up to, if they think that Willis is not going to be there, I could see them trying to move up to get him if they feel like that's their guy. I mean, that's one thing we've talked about is teams, if they find the person that they think is their guy, then they'll usually do what it takes to go and get them. So I think Pittsburgh would be willing to do that.
A lot of teams showing a lot of interest in Malik Willis, and more than likely he'll end up probably between the top 10 and the top 15 picks in the draft. When that'll happen, we'll find out in 24 days, but it will be an interesting wait till then. Well, all right, everybody, thank you for joining us. We're going to take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, we're going to break down our NFL mock draft picks. We'll start out with Shaun and see where he wanted to go with his mock draft. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. The Power Hour's on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. It is great to be here and talking football. I want to thank my guests, Shaun Calderon and Tyler from Titans Up Podcast, for joining us tonight. Guys, thank you so much for taking your time to join us.
Of course.
Oh, yeah,
Pleasure.
for sure.
And I definitely want the fans to make sure where to find you guys and on your formats. So, Shaun, I'll start with you and let the fans know.
You find me at Shaun Michaels 31, SHAUN, and that's just basically for Twitter and basically everywhere. I don't really use Instagram or Facebook, but you can find me on Twitter there for sure.
Tyler, go ahead. You're on deck.
So you can find me on YouTube, Titans Time Podcast. Listen to the audio version of the podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Titans Time Podcast there. On Twitter, at Titans_time. Instagram, Titans Time Podcast. And Also, we got some merch as well, and that link's a little bit longer. Probably easier just to go check out our YouTube. If you don't care, subscribe there. Really appreciate it. And the link is in the description of our videos. But it's titans-time.myshopify.com/collections/all.
Tyler's got the good merchandise from tots to tank size. He'll hook you up. And while everybody's getting a shout out, I'll go ahead and jump on this train. If you love our show, help it grow. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. We very much appreciate you and all that you do to support our show. All right, guys, we've got some mock drafts to get down to. Why don't we throw it up on a little screen? And Shaun, we'll go ahead and get you up first. So once again, I know it's another mock draft. I know y'all just love these. We've been doing these since early December, maybe. Oh, but here we go. It's another one. So, Shaun, you're on deck first. And I'll let you go ahead and break your mock draft down. And Tyler and I will just jump in with any points or any conclusions we'd like to make.
All right. Well, first, I want to start off by saying this is the most accurate, and this is definitely going to happen. So,
you heard it here first. Shaun did his homework, so don't be surprised. It was here first.
Okay, if we're lucky, I'll get one of these right. But anyway, for starters, well, first thing before I want to point out that the title of the first two packages are their 11 personnel and their 12 personnel, which 11 personnel is basically 3 wide receivers, and their 12 personnel packages are basically two tight ends. So my first pick, I want to go with Chris Olave. Chris Olave he's basically my draft crush, honestly. Like, I don't know if he's going to be there. I'm talking to myself. I'm trying to, like, throw back all the people like, well, Calvin Ridley was there, AJ Brown was there, just to make myself feel better, to give myself to like feel like he has a chance that he's gonna be there. But I don't know. But he's just my biggest draft crush in this whole thing. But the reason why is because he creates elite separation. He produced at a high level, and like I said, he would give the Titans an incredible 11 personnel package with AJ Brown, Robert Woods, and obviously with Olave.
Agreed.
My third round pick would be Greg Dolcich. It's called Dolcich. I believe I got that. Dolcich or something like that. And he's just an incredible producer. He produced at a high level at UCLA as a pass catcher, and he's been steadily improving as a blocker as well. And he would give the tight ends a very dynamic 12 personnel package when they go with 2 tight ends. Now they have Hooper and Dolcich. And those two together would be a massive upgrade over the 12 personnel packages they were running last year, which were basically horrendous for a lot of the season. Then my 4th round picks, they're basically for the same reason. I picked athletic linemen, I should say, who would add valuable depth in the short term, and then both would take over for some starting spots in the future. Cam Jurgens, he would be able to be the depth at center or guard. But like I said, and ideally in a couple of years when Ben Jones retires, because he made that pretty clear that he's going to retire like after this contract, I think Cam Jurgens would be a fantastic someone who can plug and play right when Ben Jones is gone. Zach Tom, he has guard and tackle versatility. With Nate Davis leaving, I shouldn't say leaving, but with Nate Davis' contract coming up, I think Zach Tom would be a possibility there. And obviously, the right tackle position has just been a nightmare since Conklin gone, so maybe he could step in there where Radens doesn't. Or maybe he steps in at left guard or left tackle, depending on what they do with Juan in 2023. And then Marquis Bell, he's just a raw athlete he's just basically one of my small school crushes. And like towards the later the draft, I tend to, which is why I'm not a GM, but I tend to go with like the smaller school guys that like produce at a high level, just because I feel like maybe they have that spunk. But Marquis Bell really, really intrigued me because he's like that raw athlete, and he excels really good in the run game. And I think he would benefit a lot from developing a year under Amani Hooker. And then maybe if he does show enough flashes, maybe you can let Hooker go, and then you let Bell take over. But that's way down the line. And then I went in the start around 6 by taking Ty Chandler, just another versatile running back who can contribute in both the running and the passing game. And then I just think he could compete for that RB3 spot that was Hilliard's, but Hilliard's probably going to be the RB2 now. And the Jacoby Durant is he is one of my favorite small school guys in this draft. He was just absolutely dominant at that level. And I get it. It's a small school. The competition wasn't strong, but when you produce at that level, someone's gonna when you produce at that high level, like someone's gonna give you a chance. And I just want that team to be the Titans because I think Jacoby Durant really has everything you want. He's a little slim. He's gonna have to add size, that's for sure. But I think he has a chance to be really special if you're patient with them and you don't like put him in an absurd situation like you have him starting week 1 or something. You know, you give him actually be realistic with him, let him develop. I think he could be a really, really strong surprise. Him and Bell. But those first two are like the real prizes of the draft, Olave and Dolcich, and those are the two that if they're on the board, it would be hard for me to pass on either of those two if they're there.
And this is a solid draft. If Olave is at 26, he's very much worth taking, especially since in previous weeks his stock has just skyrocketed, and sometimes he hasn't even made it out of the top 15.
I want to start like a rumor, but like I have some emails that he sent me back in middle school. You cannot take him for the first 25 picks. That'll be his punishment.
All right, Sean's going to be dropping some last-minute news before the draft starts. He's basically going to Laramie Tunsil this poor kid. So,
and right when the who picks 25th, right when the Bills pick or whoever it is, just be like, "Oh, never mind, it wasn't him after all," and then be like, "All right, take it as that." Please, knowing us will still pass on him and take someone else, and just be like, but.
Well, I guess my question would be for Jacoby Durant, would he be able to fill in at special teams? Would that be a good place for him to start?
Yeah, I think he could do that, but I think he would be able to start there. But like I said, like he has like, I don't know, because if you never watched him play, he is extremely dominant at that level of competition. Like he was just manhandling like those guys at the line. He had 12 interceptions, I believe. He was just all over it, and I didn't see him play much special teams, but I would imagine like at round 6, if he's there with the upside of that corner spot, like take a chance on him, see if he can at least fill in somewhere on those special teams if he's there. But we'll see.
Tyler, do you have any notes? Anything you liked in particular?
I like the so Olave in every mock draft that I've done, he has not been there. I think the closest that he has gotten is maybe to 21 or 22. But he's usually gone by the time it comes to the Titans pick. Greg, I'm not even going to try the last name, the tight end from UCLA. He's a guy who in several mock drafts I have taken him when he's been there. And Ty Chandler, I think I've taken him in every mock draft. I remember him from his time with the Volunteers, and just I think he's a versatile running back, and if he's there in the later rounds, I don't think he will come in and be that RB2 right now, but like you said, he could compete for that running back 3 spot. So
those two linemen really intrigue me too. Like I really like Cam Jurgens and Zach Tom. I think they would both excel in zone scheme. The only thing that worries me about Zach Tom is I feel like he'd be more suited for guard. So it's like, we kind of have that right tackle position again. So I don't know. At some point, we're going to draft the right tackle who's going to play right tackle. That's all I know. At some point, we have to. That's all I know. It's driving me crazy at this point. But
It's definitely a good year to get versatile linemen in this draft, and I think that's one way J-Rob's going to go. So it would not surprise me if he went 2 linemen. So very solid draft. Tyler, you're up next. Go ahead and talk us through your process.
So, like Shaun mentioned, reasons why he should not be or why he can't be the GM. I can't be the GM because I'll be honest, I have a little bit of home state bias when it comes to it.
We won't hold that against you.
Yeah, but
it's better than me. If I would have picked like my alum, I would be have UTEP players on there. But I would just be screwing the team over. So at least your guys really count.
So coming in first pick, there haven't been many mock drafts that I've done that I've been like, okay, I actually really like this one. Like there's a couple picks here and there that I like, but I've been going back and forth in the first round between either the Titans taking a receiver or taking a lineman, and kind of depending on who was there. But in this draft, when I saw that Traylon Burks was still there, I was like, okay, I got to take Burks. He's a bigger guy. I know his 40 time wasn't the best, but from watching like some of his highlights and everything else, I feel like his playing speed out on the field is a lot better than what his 40 time reflects.
I don't lie.
Then going into the third round, since I didn't take a lineman in the first round, I was just kind of looking around for a guy that was, versatile, could be moved around. And Luke Fortner from Kentucky, back in 2020, I saw that he played like a combined 538 snaps at left and right guard. I think only allowed 2 sacks when he done that. And he's a guy who, we still have Ben Jones right now. So even if Ben Jones were to get hurt, possibly plug him in at that center position, or, maybe he starts out maybe he's our starting left guard since he's versatile and can move around right there. Now, the next 2 picks, like I said, this is where that home state bias comes in. But from other drafts that I've done where these guys, their value would probably be more graded better, they weren't around for those picks. So I was like, I have to go get them now. Alante Taylor, he's got really good speed. I think one knock that I have on him is this past year when college players were actually able to, make some money from like some incentives and things like that. I felt like there were a couple of times where he let those incentives really get in his head, and quarterbacks were able to bait him into trying to jump some shorter routes, which led to him getting beat. But overall, I think that he would be a really good addition to the secondary. Velus Jones Jr., he is a guy that the speed that he has, I feel like he could really change things for taking the top off of defenses if he's out there for the Titans. He's good at catching the ball. There are times where, you'll see he'll, instead of using his hands, he'll let it come to his chest. But I feel like there's a lot of receivers out there that will do that. He is older.
I'll jump in real quick, Tyler, and I just wanted to make this point. But the one thing I do like about the Jones pick, he's a really good kick returner. So Tennessee is adding a dynamic that they have lacked for the last few years.
Yeah, and that was another reason why I was like, okay, I need to go ahead and take him now because he won't be there. He hasn't been being there at 169. And as far as special teams goes, like you said, that's something that the Titans have been lacking, and that is a strength of his. So I felt like that would be good. Tight end, I felt like this is a pretty good class for tight end. It's a deep class. Went with Cole Turner out of Nevada. Then, of course, like I talked about with Shaun's, Ty Chandler, him being there in the 6th round, I had to go with him because I feel like he's a versatile running back. And then I don't actually know much about Javion Haley. But when I got to this point of the draft, I was just kind of looking around because I know more of these guys probably be special teams guys. Maybe you can find a diamond in the rough. And he was just a guy that kind of stuck out to me, so I went with him.
And it's funny enough, I actually did pick Healy in my mock draft, so I like his speed. I like his hands. He just comes from a smaller school, so the attention just really wasn't on him. But all in all, I do like your draft. I appreciate that you went for a lot of depth pieces. Cole Turner, he may go undrafted, but I think he could be a very valuable asset as a tight end to some team that picks him up.
I like the Velus Jones pick too. That's one guy that I do like for the kick return aspect of his game. I think he was like the first team All American or co-first. I think it was co-special teams player of the year. Yes, he won those two or All American ones. But like I think he would be a really dynamic aspect to this return game because I mean, we haven't had anything really since what Mark Mariani's 1 year when he was like a beast that year, and then Darius Raynaud for a little. I guess that was more punt returner.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's either been since Mariani or since Brandon Carr handled the kickoff duties. So it's been a long time since Tennessee's had a dominant kick returner. And if we can help Ryan Tannehill start at a better field position, then that's something that Tennessee needs to strive for going forward in this draft. So very solid draft. Sorry.
I really like Burks also. That's like one. I'm a big proponent. Like if one of those five are there between Wilson, London, Olave, Burks, or what am I missing? Burks, Olave,
Sky.
Oh.
Sky Moore.
Williams.
Jameson Williams. There you go. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
One of those five are there. Then yeah, you take one of those five because I think, like I said, like Tennessee runs most of their offenses out of 11 personnel. So like you can get three dominant receivers because we're not gonna have that superstar quarterback this year. Like we're just not. So we need to stack that offense as much as possible. So try to get them at least three like badass receivers, and then you also have Derrick Henry, and now you have an insane 12 personnel package also. Or if you go Dolcich, I should say, or if you get at least another dynamic tight end. I mean, like they just need to get that offense rolling. Because that defense, I don't expect that much of a drop off in that defense because they're bringing pretty much everybody back except for Rabbit and like Jahan or Sean. So, like they're bringing like I think that defense is gonna be ready. I think that defense is gonna be a monster next year because I think they finished like they just started peaking at the right time and they just didn't get a chance to finish, unfortunately. So I think as long as we can get the offense rolling, I think we'll have. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it because the AFC is tough as hell this year, but I think they'll be able to give themselves a legit chance if they can at least get the offense back up again and just that defense will be ready again.
Well, I still think Tennessee varies out to being a 10 to 12 win team this upcoming year. So really the defense is going to be key, and I think at some point Caleb Farley could be like the key to making this defense work.
Yeah.
And if he plays the way that he's supposed to be when we drafted him, God help anybody that's got to play this team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I'm up on deck next. Great work, Tyler, on your draft. Now, me, I like shaking things around. I don't like sitting in one spot. I got to move. I got to do things. I just don't like it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go after a receiver that's already in the league and has already established himself and is affordable. So I will trade my 26th pick for T. Higgins and their 63rd pick, which comes up 60 or 76 on this. I don't know why. It's weird like that. And their 4th round pick. Tried getting both their picks, but it wasn't going to happen. I thought T. Higgins was good enough for a 1st round pick. And the thing about T. Higgins is it's a very doable trade. Because in the next few years, they're going to have to max out Joe Burrow with his contract. Jamar Chase is going to have a max contract, so they have to keep those guys in place. So obviously there's going to be somebody left out. So T. Higgins already has 2 years left on his original deal. Cincinnati's got to think long term, especially after investing in the offensive line, and they know they're going to have to pay their 2 superstars. So I think I'll take one off their hands. But then with my 76th pick, I knew I could kind of play around. So Kirby Joseph, to me, was an interesting prospect. I love the fact that he goes after the ball and he's able to disrupt a lot of receivers out there. So watching a little bit of film on him, I really got excited at the fact that he's just literally all over the field. He's swatting at receivers. He's making life difficult for them. And this is the kind of guy that would fit in well with a Mike Vrabel defense. And very much so. He's physical. He's quick. He's agile. And that's the kind of guy Tennessee needs to add, especially with Hooker's contract coming up next year. Will they stay with him long term, or will they find a replacement? And then at 90, Donovan West, to me, is really a jack-of-all-trades lineman. He can play center, he can play both guard positions, and the versatility there in the third round, I feel, is just very, very important, knowing that I need to find a lineman, especially where it seems like we've had a lot of injuries the last few years and we've had to fill spots. So West, knowing that I could put him at any of these positions and can fill in, or could potentially fill in for someone else down the road, you've got a guy that can play three positions. So in round 3, I feel that's a steal. And then JoJo Domann is really interesting to me. And I know a lot of people don't want to stay away from linebackers, but we have to find replacements for Jayon Brown, and you have to find replacements for Sean Evans especially. Now, granted, we have signed a couple guys on short-term contracts, but at the same time, I need to find somebody a little more permanent. As much as we can fill in one-year deals, sometimes you have to look down the road. And JoJo Domann is a monster. I love the way that he breaks off the line of scrimmage. He gets after the ball carrier or the quarterback. He is fast. And when I say fast, he is fast. And how he has fallen this far, it has to be a medical thing. It has to be a character thing. Literally the fact that he can get all over the field and just disrupt things. He's the classic F-up guy. He goes out and he Fs stuff up. That's the kind of guy you want on this defense. He works well off the edge. He can work on the inside, but I definitely would like to get him more on the edge because that seems to be where his burst of speed hits the best potential spot. So I like filling him in at one of those linebacker positions, especially going down the road. Then at 131, I like Cordell Float. I think he's a very underrated cornerback. There's not a lot of film on him, but I do think he's kind of he's really in a Christian Fulton kind of category. He played a little bit, and some of the time that he did get in, he was able to be somewhat decent, but I think along those lines, he's kind of a project guy, but I'm willing to go this high and draft him because there's potential. I like his size. I like his hands. Definitely somebody that could fill in, especially with more depth at cornerback, and could potentially play special teams going down the road. And then with my 136 pick, Grant Calcaterra, I'm sorry. If he gets drafted to this team, I'm screwed. So I've got to learn this man's name, but I love this kid's hands. He's very disruptive. He's a great blocker. I think he's a little undersized, which is why he falls down this far, but I do feel there's a lot of potential. He really could be what Anthony Ferguson should have been. So I like that he can get out there. He's a very good athletic player. Throw it in the end zone, he'll find it. And a lot of the film that I watched on him, he's very good at winning his matchups. I do think there's just certain little things that he has to work on, but still a good find in the 4th round. Then moving to 143, Sequandre White. I love this kid. I feel that he was just very underused at South Carolina. He's agile. He's quick. It's really hard to compare players, but I really just see him as just a more heavier Darian Sproles. He's hard to bring down. He's athletic once he gets out in the open field, and the man can cut and make people break some ankles out there. And the most important thing that I found interesting about him, he catches out of the backfield and can make defenders miss him as soon as he's 20 or 30 yards up the field, which is what Tennessee has desperately wanted, which is what they've tried to fill in with these other running backs that has not worked, with Darian Evans and with Dion Lewis. This is the guy they need to make that go. And then DeMarco Jackson falls in the 5th round. I think there's a lot of potential there, but really more along the lines, he'll be a depth player, special teams. There's potential there, and I like him to eventually work his way up into the starting lineup and get some reps. And then Javion Healy, I love his athleticism. As Tyler said, I love the way he catches the ball. Small school, didn't get a lot of looks, but I think he fills in really good here. Could potentially take one of those other wide receiver spots, especially in this training camp coming up. And, of course, I finished my draft out with my favorite player, Cameron Dicker, the kicker. Love this kid. Love his leg. Love everything about him. How are you not going to draft a guy called Dicker the Kicker? That sells itself. That just sells itself. I can't say anything else about that. But he's got a great leg, and he's punted, so he's a versatile kicker. So that's my NFL draft right there.
I really like Calcaterra. How do you say his name? Calcaterra, right? Grant Calcaterra.
Calcaterra, yes, that's right.
I'm just gonna let y'all.
His concussion history scares the hell out of me, but I mean, at that point in the draft, I think he would be worth it if you get him around for it. So I mean, but that concussion does scare the hell out of me. DeMarco Jackson, I'm a big DeMarco Jackson guy. Kicker, if I was going to go kicker, I mean, I was really big on the kicker, picking a kicker too, and then we signed Randy Bullock, and I mean, I don't have too many opinions on that, but it's a cool sign in my opinion. But anyways, if I was going to go kicker, I would have rather have gone Cade York, the kicker from LSU. I think in my opinion, he's the best kicker in this class. He set LSU's record for most 50 plus yard field goals, and then his kicking percentage was 81% with over 76 kicks kicked over his career. He's a really good kicker. That would be the route I would go our kicker. But I do like Cameron Dicker also because I've seen him a lot also just living here in Texas, so I've seen a lot of his. But I do draft a lot too. But like I said, just Calcaterra. That's like the only one that I would just be like, I don't know, because that concussion just scares the hell out of me. But he is so damn good that at 136, I mean, I really can't blame you there. I probably would take him there around there if he really was there at 136, because he really is a talented dude.
We'll try and get him in one of those new concussion helmets that they're coming out with next year.
All right.
Well, they're supposed to be better than all these other ones, and we're supposed to be seeing them soon, so we'll just stick one on him and see if that works. So, at least, hopefully, that's what will work. All right, guys, we'll take a quick 30-second break. When we come back, we'll talk about the new stadium coming up, a lot of debate, getting heated up, and we'll also bring in what we think the new stadium should have, because everybody's got something that they want added on. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. Tired of not being able to find It's that simple. So sit back, relax, and watch every old episode, and new ones drop every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget, subscribe, like, and ring the bell for more content. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. I want to thank my guests, Shaun Calderon and Tyler from the Titan Time podcast for joining us tonight. Guys, it has been a blast, and I'm very glad that we were able to get you on tonight.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's always fun, man.
All right, guys, we got one more segment. We'll jump into it real quick, because eventually there's a basketball game on, but I guess if you want to watch that, go for it. But we got bigger issues to talk about. The Tennessee Titans are heating up discussions with potentially getting a new stadium locked in for hopefully by the 2026 season. And guys, really, I mean, it seemed like just kind of just hearsay, and that we were eventually just going to do a remodel, and then it just speeded up to a bigger deal where now that there's more money involved, it's potentially going to be cheaper to build a new stadium. So, Shaun, I'll start with you. Really along the lines of getting the stadium built, what do you think was one of the key factors in getting this thing moving?
I think the fact that Nashville, the city itself, is on fire right now, and I think they know for a fact that if they were to upgrade that stadium, like where they're talking about, they would literally get every single big event probably within the first decade of it being opening. Probably within the first 7 years, but at least the first decade, you'd probably have at least WrestleMania. You'd probably have a Super Bowl. You'd have a Final Four, maybe a national championship. Like, you would just get damn near every major event, and that alone, I think, was just intriguing itself. And then also, I just think that Nissan Stadium just looks outdated compared to a lot of the stadiums right now. Like I've always seen Nissan Stadium as like when you create a Madden stadium and you pick and they like give you like the template for like what a stadium should look like. That's exactly what I kind of feel like Nissan Stadium looks like. Like create a stadium template. That's literally what I see. Like it's like think the two video boards at the end. I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I love being in there, but I just think it's a little outdated compared to when you see like the palace that they're putting out in Los Angeles and then like Minnesota. Like I just think it was completely outdated by this time. And like you said, like they were planning on doing the upgrades, and then all of a sudden, like just the price for the upgrades just went ridiculously high. So they were like, "Well, we're going to spend this much money, might as well just go all the way in." So.
And of course, spending money is going to be key to getting this thing rolling. So, very surprising, especially since owners are very stingy at trying to just hand out money. But Amy Adams Strunk has eventually come out saying that they are going to put up about $700 million of their own money to liquidate their assets and get this thing rolling. So, Tyler, how much does it show that Mama Amy just really wants to get this thing done?
Oh, it shows a lot. I mean, like you said, owners can sometimes they can be a little bit stingy, but she's like, "Hey, we're putting this out there. Here's what we can do. Let's get it done." And I love that she's doing this. Coming out saying, "Hey, we're gonna liquidate our assets. We're gonna put up $700 million towards this new stadium. So let's get it done."
And it definitely just shows that she is in Nashville for the long haul, that she has meant so much to us, and the city has just appreciated everything that she has done, and she continues to just show that outpour and support that this team has just really lacked over the last decade. So, Shaun, I mean, really, what's going to be the selling point here to just get this thing done in the next few months?
I just think they're already basically have their mind set. They want to do it. And especially with now that Buffalo's doing it. They said that I think there's rumors that Kansas City or somebody wants to do another stadium also. So I think they pretty much have their mind already set. And I think it's just inevitable at this point. Honestly, it's just a matter of when, not if.
And Tyler, I'll let you take the same question.
Yeah, I agree. Like Shaun said, with Buffalo, they're going to push forward for a new stadium. Titans need a new stadium. Up until Shaun said something about like building a custom stadium and everything, I had never really thought about Nissan Stadium like that. And now, Shaun, that you've said that, I can't get that image out of my head.
It just like has like the little slides and just one at the end. It's basically like a template of you create a stadium.
So, and I mean, they already knew that Nissan Stadium needed upgrades done to it. So, and once they start diving in and seeing all the money that was going to go into that, I just think now it's inevitable, because if you're going to put that much money into renovating a stadium, just build a new one and make it like what you want. Like, build it up to where, a big point, like Shaun mentioned earlier, city of Nashville is just booming right now. So make it to where it can be something that just draws in more crowds to Nashville.
And it's going to be very interesting, especially with who will be in charge of basically the project executive of this. Kellen DeCourcy will be basically one of the key components of this, from Paul Kuharski's website. Most people, if they don't know about him, some of the work that he has done was the new Nashville Stadium. I believe it's Geosis Park for the soccer team. And if you're a baseball fan, he worked with the restoration and expansion of Wrigley Field back when they were expanding that. So it really puts me at ease to know that somebody that's been on some pretty major projects could be basically heading this up. So I guess the big question we have to ask, everybody's going to want input on what the stadium needs, what will make it better, and just the whole experience just for the fan to enhance that. So, Shaun, I'll start with you. What's the one thing that new Nissan Stadium will need going forward?
Well, damn, if you can make it look like that stadium right there, I'll take that.
That's a spaceship on steroids.
But seriously, like I wrote down actually a couple. Like I say a retractable roof. Like obviously, I think that's just massive, just in general, just for dealing with the elements, and then obviously just getting those major events. Being able to play on natural grass still, that might be a little harder, but as long as it's a retractable roof, then at least there's at least a chance they can be able to roll it in like the way they do in Arizona. I really want to go back to the Coliseum name. I don't like going to Nissan Stadium. I think going back to like the Adelphia Coliseum theme, or just when they were the Coliseum, just those going back to like the Coliseum name, and then just a really bit of my really wants. Like I want them to either embrace the Titans theme and just create some epic modern day like Coliseum, or just like that picture, just create something that's just like beautiful, like the way the Rams name, just something like aesthetically pleasing. So like just one of those two, either just like an epic modern day Titans themed Coliseum, or just like a beautiful $1 billion playpen, whichever one of those two. Those are my preferences.
And really, it was an interesting picture because I generally chose this one because it kind of has some Astrodome-like qualities, but it's kind of an exoskeleton as well. So it embraces kind of the old culture and the new culture. So the only biggest reason why I just picked that picture.
Like just had like an A.J. Brown poster right there in the corner, a little Titans logo right there. There you go.
There's a lot of potential, but I mean, I'd make the lighting red so it will reflect like the above skylights that we have. I think that'd look good.
I think it'd be sick if they had like, you know, the Raiders kind of took that idea already. They would do like a lighting of the cauldron, like before like the game, like just like that, like a little like where the cauldron lit on fire. But like Raiders kind of already took that, so it kind of looked like we're copying them. You know, they're doing like they do like a fake fire, but I guess that's probably the smarter version. The way to go.
Well, we can always make a better version.
Yeah, yeah, that one looks like a little toy, but I don't know. We'll see.
Tyler, I'll go ahead. Tyler, what do you think the stadium should have going forward? New Nissan Stadium. Here's your input. Throw it out there.
So Shaun and I think a lot alike on this. I want the retractable roof, and I want to make sure it's still natural grass in there. Like that's my biggest things for it, because natural grass, I don't want the turf. We've saw what can happen with the turf. You know, usually more injuries. Keep it natural grass, and the retractable roof. My thinking used to be that, okay, I don't mind being out in the elements, everything like that. Like, hey, let's keep it like that. But after the thing that really changed my mind was going to the Texans game this past year and it pouring down rain. I was absolutely soaked, lost. Then I had to walk back to, I had like the 10, 15-minute walk back to the car where I got even more soaking wet and had an hour and a half drive home. And, I was just like, okay, retractable roof would be nice because then at least when I'm in the stadium and the weather's like this, I can be dry.
That's how I feel like my perspective on like retractable roof changed during the season opener when I was there for the Arizona ass beating.
Yes.
We were just there. It was like so damn hot that day. Like everybody, you looked around, like half the crowd literally looked like they jumped in a swimming pool. Like they were just drenched in sweat. I was just looking around like that. And then we were just getting our ass beat that day. I was like, it was just a miserable day all together. I was like, we need a roof. At least we had a roof. Like, there you go. At least we had that roof. At least be more like cool right now. Have some air conditioning while I'm watching his ass beating.
Yeah. Yes, I was at that game, and like you said, you look around and everyone was just drenched with sweat.
It was disgusting, honestly. Like, because even I was drenched. Like, it was just a mess. And then like the product on the field was even worse.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, that was a nightmare. I couldn't wait to get back to Texas after that day. I was like,
wow, that's pretty bad when you're wanting to go back to an even hotter Texas. That's how frustrated Shaun was. He was like, "Nope, I'm going back to hotter Texas after this mess."
There's nothing worse than like sitting in like 100 degree weather with like ridiculous humidity, and like Chandler Jones just doesn't stop fucking sacking the quarterback. Like you're just watching like the team can't do a damn thing about it. Apparently, you're just like, well, I guess So much for all the preseason hype that it was our year and all this bullshit that we started. We got back on track at least. We got back on track to be fair, but like that week one was just rough, man. I was just there like, what the fuck, man? Like all that hype.
Rough going starting out, but like you said, at least it all panned out.
Mm-hmm.
But to finish it out, I think there's two things that we need that will help with the stadium experience. And one, it's generally, I would like to see a rail system basically built from the stadium to the downtown area. The commute needs to be better. And if you're trying to attract major attractions like the Super Bowl, like the Final Four, the College Football Championship, WrestleMania, people want easier access. I mean, if you want to walk there, that's fine. I'm not hating on it. Of course, people are going to walk to the stadium regardless. But if I have a way to get there quicker, and if there's a train to take, I'm taking a train. And from somebody that's lived in Dallas, it's kind of nice to have a train to get to places. So easier commute, easier way to get around, breaking up gridlock, and you're getting people to save money to go spend it on souvenirs. So I'm just throwing that out there, Nashville. Think about it. And of course, my final one is, I think the biggest problem that the Titans have had is trying to find a way to basically mingle the Oiler and the Titans culture together in a respectful and decent fashion. Of course, we can't get away from it, and it's something that the Titans should embrace because it's a part of them. And it's something that's a part of the history, and it needs to be celebrated. And I think the best way to do that would be through a memorial garden. Kind of like the one that the Yankees have. And I've always felt that was a very strong model. I like how it's just cultured and built to celebrate the teams. You could basically have like one section starting out from the Oilers standpoint and then integrating into the Titans area. So I would like to see that just to be celebrated. Tennessee has a rich football history of tradition. Yes, it started in Houston. Yes, they were a different team. But I think that's something that needs to be embraced a little more and just shared a little more in the public. Yes, the Oilers are retired. Yes, we're potentially going to have those uniforms back for maybe one game a year. But I think it's something that needs to be sold out a little more to the fans and appreciated a little more out in the open.
That'd be cool. I think in general, I think the Titans need to do like a better job of like just honoring the history. And like, I feel like Keith Bullock, all like players like that were just done dirty. Like we don't like honor them at all, except for like that one day a year when we do like that homecoming game. So I just think, I think something like this where you could honor like the people, the Oilers legends and like the Titans legends, like that'll be sick. Like that right there, something like you could tell that's like a real investment. Like they took to like honor that history. Like the Titans, we had like the Titans Hall of Greats, the little painting. About it, and like the little if you're lucky enough, you used to be able to get your number retired and held up by the little paper clips or zip ties, I should say. But at least now it's like they have like a going around Nissan Stadium. So, but yeah, I agree. I think that'll be sick to like honor the legend of the past or something like.
And it's very much time we do. I felt that. The Ring of Honor's kind of just laughable at this point, and I want to give something more personal and give a more fan touch where people can actually walk by and take pictures and pose with it and do selfies and things like that. And I think the Yankees, I will give them credit for this, they orchestrate that to give the fan touch there. And I think that's something that Tennessee should try and at least make an effort to make.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, I want to thank everybody for who's joined us tonight and watched. It's been great. We've had a great time. I want to thank Shaun and Tyler for joining us on the show tonight. It's been fantastic. You guys have been fantastic, bringing great insight and just having a hell of a time and just having some laughs, especially while we're trying to get to the damn season. And I know the off season's exhausting, but we're getting through it.
Mm-hmm. Little by little, day by day, getting grinding. Next thing you know, it's going to be training camp.
Yep.
And AJ Brown's going to be there. Damn it.
At the Titans training camp.
Yeah.
There you go. For sure. And I want to give you each another shot to just give a shout out to the fans, let them know where to find you and all your social media platforms. So Shaun, I'll let you go first.
You can find me at Shaun Michaels 31, SHAUN. And then Michaels with the S. Yes, that's my real name. I am in fact named after the wrestler. Fun fact. And then Shawn Michaels 31.
And you can find me on YouTube and audio version of the podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just type in Titans Time Podcast. Follow the show, subscribe. Really appreciate it. Find me on Twitter at Titans_time. And again, you can check out our merch, titans-time.myshopify.com/collections/all.
Shaun Tyler giving out some of the best Titans info and takes out there on the web. Make sure you check them out. They're worth every bit of it. And I want to thank everyone once again for joining us on the show tonight. Have a great night. Enjoy the national championship. Kansas and North Carolina are playing. Go team, I guess. So I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Take care, tighten up, have a great night, and even better tomorrow.
Tighten up. Have a good night, y'all.
Tighten up.
Tighten up.